Hi everyone, this is Master Matt, and today we're going to cover some of the basic stances that we practice in our Taekwondo training. I'm going to provide a demonstration as well as an explanation of each of these stances and what we like to focus on when we're practicing them. There's 7 basic stances that we're going to cover today, and we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to put my hands on my hips. We're going to start with HORSEBACK. Ap means front, sogi means stance. So this literally translates to front stance, but we specify it to mean our short stance or our walking stance. So all I'm going to do is take one of my legs and I'm just going to step forward as if I would be walking. So I don't want it to be too far in front or too wide. This is just going to be something natural. My back leg is going to turn in a bit to keep my balance, and my front leg is going to open up just a bit to be around shoulder width. So I don't want to be in one straight line because I don't walk that way. Naturally, I'm going to step with the other leg. Again, this is my walking stance or my short stance. This is used a lot in transitional moves in our forms, and it's used a lot in our self-defense practice. It's just the basic stance that we have when we're moving around in our martial art. So again, that's our HORSEBACK, our short stance. The next stance we're going to cover is called apgubi. Again, ap means front, and gubi this time means curved or bent. So this is our front stance, but it specifies that our knees are going to be bent. So it's going to be a longer stance than our short stance. So we also call this long stance for that reason. So I'm going to take my back or whatever leg and I'm going to bring it in front, but I'm going to step at a diagonal motion, so about 30 degrees apart. I don't want it to be too wide, and I definitely don't want to be in one straight line because having my chest forward and my legs like this is not good for my balance. So I'm going to open my legs just a little past shoulder width. My back leg is going to turn in a bit with my heel because if my leg was straight like this, my leg would be out of line from my center of gravity. So in order to stabilize myself better, I have this leg turned a bit. And I'm going to have 70% of my weight on this front leg. So I'm going to bend this knee about 70%. I'm going to leave 30% for the back leg, which is going to be remaining straight. A good test for this is to see if your knee covers your toes. So if you can still see your toes, then you need to bend your knee a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to have my chest forward, my back straight, my weight centered, and I'm going to just be sitting forward, and this is our long stance to switch sides. I'm going to bring my leg in versus just bringing my leg straight forward. Better for my balance to bring the center of gravity together and then back out. Okay, again, putting 70% of my weight on this front leg. My back leg is straight but turned in a bit, 70 to 30. So again, this is called our apgubi, our front stance or our long stance. The next stance we're going to cover is called duigubi. So dui means back, and once again, gubi means bent or curved. So this is going to be back stance. And with the same idea, the legs are going to be bent. So I'm going to put my legs into an L shape, touching my heels together. And I'm going to take my front leg and bring it in front of me a bit. And then what I'm going to do, notice that my legs are in a line this time. I'm not open like I was for the long stance. My chest is going to be facing sideways. So that's why my legs are okay to be in a line, because my body's not turned this way. My hips can sit right in this position. So what I'm going to do is put 70% this time on my back leg instead of the front leg. So 70 back, 30 in the front. I am going to bend my front leg just a bit, but most of my weight is going to be sitting on the back. So my legs are in a line. For the most part, when you're in this stance, you're still going to be performing techniques towards the leg in front or even the back, but our body is facing the side here. So my chest is facing sideways here. Same thing on the other side. I can start by putting my legs in an L. You don't have to do this, and you shouldn't do this when you're just stepping into a stance, but just to start learning, to get the idea down. That's how we're doing it. Putting 70% on the back, 30% in the front. My legs are in a line, my chest is to the side, and I am sitting in good balance. Again, this is called my duigubi, or my back stance. The next stance we're going to cover is called 주춤서기. Again, that sogi means our stance. 주춤 is actually a very uncommon word, even in Korean. It roughly translates to cringing or wincing, which I don't understand how that fits with our stance here. But regardless, this is called our horse stance, or a horseback stance, horse riding stance. What we're going to do is open our legs a little past shoulder width. My toes are going to stay facing forward, and I'm going to sit back with my weight, okay? And I emphasize sitting back, not sitting forward, okay? I don't want my knees to pass in front of my toes. So I want to sit back, and I want my legs to be not lean, my knees not pushing forward. So that way my back is straight, my chest is out, my toes are still facing forward, and I'm sitting 50% on each of my legs. Okay, this is a very common and traditional stance that we use to practice our punching techniques, but it's also scattered throughout a lot of our forms, and it's just a basic stance to have. It's simple, but you try to get deep in this stance to strengthen your legs, the muscles in your legs, and we do this practice a lot when we're in our Taekwondo class. Again, this is our 주춤서기, our horse stance. The next stance we're going to cover is called bom서기. Bom in Korean means tiger, so this is our tiger stance. What we're going to do is start by taking our back leg and turning it 30 degrees or so, kind of like the long stance. And the front leg is going to be about a foot distance, one of your feet distances in front of that foot. And from there, I'm going to lift my front leg with my heel off the ground, and I'm going to just have the ball of my foot touching the ground. And then I'm going to put about 90% of my weight on the back foot, bending this knee. Okay, so I should be sitting back with my weight. 10% of my weight is on this foot in front, which basically means I'm just touching the ground with that foot. I'm not leaning on it at all, just touching the ground, making contact. Okay, this is called a tiger stance because it can be used a lot in motions where we would follow up with a lunge, or as a tiger would do, pouncing motion. So from here with my opposite leg, I'm turning the back leg, lifting the front here. Make sure my chest is not facing the side for the stance. I want it facing forward. My legs are in a sort of a line, but I do have this back leg turned to stabilize myself. 90% of my weight is in this back leg, and then 10% is on the front. And I can sit comfortably and balanced with my chest forward here. This is our bom서기, our tiger stance. The next stance we're going to cover is called 과서기. Gwa means twisted, so this is a twisted or cross stance. There's two ways we can perform this. It can either be a front cross or a backwards cross. Today we're just going to focus on the backwards cross, so stepping behind the leg. So with one leg, I'm going to step behind the other leg, and I'm going to place it right up against this leg with my shin to my calf. So I make contact here, and then I'm going to just put the ball of my foot on the ground and have my heel up like it was in the tiger stance. This front leg is going to remain flat, but the toes are going to turn a bit in towards the opposite foot. So my toes on each leg are kind of facing each other. And I'm going to bend my knees here. I want to make sure that my back is straight. I never want to be bending over for these stances. So I'm sitting tall, but I am bending my knees. So this stance is used a lot in stepping towards the side. So the same on the opposite leg. Sideways motions and techniques. You can kind of come out of the tiger stance, lunge into this stance. It's a transitional move in a lot of our forms where we are doing techniques towards the side. But again, here my feet are like crossing but facing more towards each other. My knees are bent. This is just the traditional Taekwondo cross stance, but if you get more into the Hapkido crossing, we have a lot more depth in those stances. But for these, we're just focusing on coming towards the side. The front leg is always flat, the back leg is always up. So once again, that's our 과서기, our cross stance. The final stance we're going to cover is called 학다리서기. Okay, hak meaning crane in Korean, dari meaning leg. So this is going to be our crane stance where we focus on being on one leg. So we're going to take one leg and lift it off the ground. And what I'm going to do is place the instep of that foot against the knee on this opposite leg. I'm not going to put the bottom of my foot here and rest my leg on my other leg. I'm just touching it. So like we've said before with the tiger stance, I think like I have 10% of my weight on this leg where it's just touching this leg. 90% of the weight is here. So I'm going to bend my knee a bit for stability. But this is a very good stance for practicing balance. It's in a lot of our forms, namely in kumgang, where we practice slow motions while maintaining our balance. Okay, so this is our crane stance, the opposite side. I'm lifting here, and one thing to note is if I'm coming from a front stance or any other stance, I don't just want to lift into my crane stance because it's not good for my balance. In a lot of the forms, you will be lifting from this, but the key to doing that is sliding back, centering your gravity, and then lifting here. Okay, that's going to make for a much better transition for you and your balance. So again, I'm touching my foot on my knee here, just bending the knee a bit, and just sitting as a crane would. So again, this is good just to sit in and practice your balance and do different motions. But once again, that's our crane stance, 학다리서기. So that was a general overview of 7 of the basic stances that we have in our Taekwondo training. Hopefully this video gives you guys some insight as well as some information on how to perform these stances if you didn't already know how, or just how to get better at them. Stances are super important in any martial arts training. They help us to understand how the body works and moves and how to be better with our footwork and maintain better balance when we're practicing our forms or our self-defense or just anything in general that involves footwork. So make sure you guys are practicing these. I appreciate you watching and keep training.